Welcome to the Cardiff Critical Care Psychology Online Learning Library. This module covers some general wellbeing and self-care tips for working in an acute care setting. Working in ICU is hard. It goes without saying. If anyone wants to tell you otherwise, then they're lying. This work is hard, it's emotive, it's cognitively straining, but it can also be incredibly rewarding. You will react. You're going to experience stress sometimes, but sometimes you're going to experience elation and joy, and you're going to witness a lot of distress and everything in between. There's a lot of overuse of the word resilience. Resilience means the ability to bounce back from adversity to your baseline. But actually, truly, resilience is about the team rather than individuals. It is better applied to that system approach. There are systemic issues that are an ongoing part of working in intensive care and other acute settings. But it's important when we think about our bounce, we think about what we do to look after ourselves, but also what we do to look after the people around us and the influence of the people around us and us on them. Next, body stress response. When you're under threat, you're under pressure, you're under the heat of it, you have problems breathing, you have an increased breathing rate, increased heart rate, increased blood pressure. And then if it carries on a little bit longer, you stop thinking straight. So your frontal lobes disconnect and can't think straight, and you're useless to anyone in a crisis. So the number one thing you need to do when everything hits the fan is breathe. Breathe. Take your time, take a moment, even if it's just 10 seconds, to down regulate your breath. Don't be hard on yourself. If you tell yourself that it's a nightmare, you're bad at this, what have I done wrong? You're just going to set off that stress system and you're just going to create more problems. So as much as you can, try not to tell yourself off. It's hard enough as it is without you telling yourself off. That's not to say don't take responsibility, don't learn, but if you think about it, you need carrot, not stick. You need lots of encouragement. And actually, for anyone who's watching this, who's supporting others and training others, please teach people with the carrot, not the stick. The stick does not work and it does not motivate people. Despite the so-called historical man-up culture of critical care, you do not have to be strong. Actually, there are moments where you can show your vulnerability and it shows that you're human. And the patients and their families appreciate it. So you don't have to keep that mask up all the time, the psychological mask I'm talking about here now. It might seem like a good idea, but keeping a lid on it the whole time is actually just going to build up the toxicity in your system. So where you can, drop the mask, find those safe spaces, remembering it's okay not to be okay, but it doesn't make you mad, it doesn't make you weird, it makes you human. The other big one in the NHS, worse than ever right now, is the gap in services, the gap in service delivery, the lack of ability to give patients what they need. And I've seen it time and time again, people stretch to fill the gap. Please try hard not to stretch to fill the gap. I know you're going to give above and beyond. That's why you come to work in the NHS. That's why you want to work in intensive care. But that's a hiding to nowhere and it's a hiding to burnout. So just beware. Don't overgive. Don't overstretch. Give good enough, not perfect. And that should keep you around about okay. So much is out of your control despite what your training tells you. There are only so many things you can control, and actually that's got worse in a pandemic. If you focus on all the things you can't control and get worked up about it, you're just making it worse for yourself. That's not to say don't try to improve things. That's not to say don't try to improve quality controls, but at the end of the day, you can only do what you can do. So don't be so hard on yourself and just do what you can do. When you're stressed, you lose your head, you might be a bit of a numpty with your colleagues. Your colleagues have the same stress system in their body. So you're going to have people who are losing it around you. Try really, really hard not to give as good as you get and not to take it personally. It's really important for the future culture of intensive care that we try our very, very hardest not to react to the stress of others, because it just perpetuates the rudeness and the man up culture. So you are the future of intensive care. Don't sponge up other people's nonsense. Don't give out nonsense yourself. Have you ever come home from a shift in intensive care and someone said to you, "How was your day?" and you can't remember? Why is that? Well, that's because you're in system overload. You just know and see and do so much in that shift, especially if it's a long day, 12-hour shift. You'll be full of information, you'll be full of repeated stimulation, noises, lights, you'll be full of patient images and patient stories. And it may not actually feel like a constructed story in your head. It may feel a bit fragmenty and a bit sort of hazy, but you have to find some way to chew it over and spit it out, which we call psychologically processing. So never go to bed on a shift without putting a shift to bed. Any way you can to process the information. Talking can help, doesn't help everyone actually. Movement helps loads. Finding some way to get your body moving doesn't have to be super exercise, but kind of walking, cycling, running, driving your car can help that information to just process through your memory and get put to bed. Some people are a bit more creative. Some people find their writing or drawing or artwork works for them. Whatever works for you, find it, do it frequently, not when you need it, but pretty much after every shift. And of course, really importantly, you are not the job. The job does not define you. The job is not your life. I know it might feel like it's your life just lately and it feels like it wants to take every inch of you, but don't let it. You're going to feel overstimulated at work. It's really, really important that you get some stimulation outside of work rather than shut down completely. Yes, do get rest, but actively rest as well. Don't cut out the things you enjoy. Remember to keep that joy and stimulation at home, and switch off the notifications. Stop looking at Twitter in your time off.
Please check out our other videos on this YouTube channel, but also there's a lot of other help and resources that I've developed with others at ics.ac.uk/wellbeing. They're free and they're accessible to anyone working in adult or paediatric intensive care, and lots of the materials are also relevant to other acute settings. Thanks for listening.